Hey everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Thursday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis have kicked off their pre-Olympic game warm-up schedule thing. Are you actually excited to watch them play in this thing, though? That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. This one's always free, never behind a paywall. And Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 24,000 subscribers, all of whom, Andy, are making a Locked On show. This one in particular, their first listen, but another Locked On show, their second listen of every day. Looking around the network, finding great shows to check out. We're going to get into the third game for the Lakers in the Summer League. Another loss, but probably, I think, had more positives, at least for some of the players who matter coming out of it. But first, Andy, the Olympic prep has really begun. The Team USA has their first, as we're recording on Wednesday night, they are playing in their first warm-up game as a team to get ready for the Paris Olympics, which obviously means LeBron and Anthony Davis are part of that and playing. I've already seen a couple great highlights coming through of the two of them working together. Andy, they're teammates. They have synergy. Mm-hmm. Are you excited at the prospect of LeBron and AD going to Paris and maybe bringing home gold for Team USA?
Well, as I tweeted out at Cam Brothers at the start of the game, Team Canada is already out to an insurmountable 12-4 lead. Probably best to just sit LeBron for the rest of the game and live to fight another day when the NBA season begins. AD too. No, I'm not excited. I want to make it clear. I do not begrudge these guys for playing in this game, unless I will say this. Were I a Clipper fan and had Kawhi played in this game, I actually would have begrudged him a lot.
Well, that's actually, people don't see, this was kind of the impetus for the question because,
yes,
Kawhi Leonard on Wednesday essentially, dropped out of the Olympic run because he's not healthy enough. And it's like, I tweeted this out. It's like, on the one hand, I'm sure Clippers fans are relieved that Kawhi isn't playing in the Olympics and won't be risking his health. But I'm sure they're also a little disappointed that he's not healthy enough to go to the Olympics and risk his health. Neither outcome is particularly good.
But in the particular,
got me thinking about this.
Right. In the particular case of the Clippers, though, he just couldn't. He just got off a postseason that he couldn't participate in because of injury, which has basically been the case for Kawhi during his entire Clipper tenure. And he just signed $150 million, I believe, extension. There is a point where it's like, look, man, patriotism is nice and whatnot, but you've got some actual employers who you never seem available for when it matters the most. How about a little bit of, pragmatism?
Yeah.
In the case of LeBron,
and true, if you're the Clippers too, it's another terrible sign. Paul George is left. Your other star, is clearly not healthy yet, and so you're left with James Harden. So,
dude, if I were Steve Ballmer, I would have purchased the Olympics just to shut down basketball this summer, just to make sure Kawhi couldn't be there. I would have bought the entire Olympics and just shut down basketball.
How much for FIBA? Sir, we don't. How much for FIBA?
Right.
I say.
I'm just going to hand you a napkin, you write down a number, slide it to me, and I promise you it's fine. Really. Seriously, surprise me.
Go ahead, add a couple more zeros. It's
just for funsies. But LeBron and AD, do I begrudge them for doing this? All kidding aside, no. I get what it means in terms of it being an honor. I get what it means for legacy, all of that sort of stuff. If you're asking me if I feel like 2 gold medals and 1 bronze is enough for LeBron at 40? Yeah, I do. I think it's enough. In my own worldview, and considering all this stuff on AD's plate and the fact that he's done this as well and he's got an Olympic gold and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I think it's enough. I don't get a vote, but I think it's enough.
Yeah. If LeBron hadn't like overcome the LeBron's thing, you know, like whatever, okay, fine. But he did take it care of
Twice.
LeBron's is not a worry anymore.
I don't think LeBron, like, I don't know if, anybody who isn't sold on LeBron is going to be convinced by a 3rd gold medal.
No, but you understand what I'm saying? Like, if he could be like, this is the one thing that, like, I look back on it and, like, it was a major failure and I want to set it right. Okay, fine.
No,
the
loop's been closed.
It should also be noted, you are not particularly into the Olympics anyway. You're not a big Olympic guy.
No, although I am, because my daughter's super into volleyball, I am going to be watching volleyball with her this summer. And I've come to discover, side note, volleyball, really fun, entertaining game to check out. I'd never really paid attention to before, but my daughter's very into it. And my biases aside, she's pretty good. So I've come to love watching it. But no, I don't get that into it, to be totally honest.
And so, like, you're like, you're not getting that visceral, excitement and, the rush of patriotism or whatever it might be for seeing Team USA win. I actually like the Olympics, but don't care about Olympic basketball nearly as much as I'm sort of interested in the weird sports that I'd never see, like badminton and, team handball and like all of these other things where I will instantly, sort of like when a couple of weeks ago when like Team USA was like doing really well in cricket. And suddenly I was like really into the idea of like, let's go ahead and win this cricket. And like, I like that for the Olympics. Olympic basketball, it's like, I don't care. It doesn't bother me if the U.S. loses to a different country.
At this point, you're losing to NBA teams.
Right, exactly. It's like these, Spain is like filled with NBA players.
Team Canada is like an NBA team.
Right. The world is caught up. It's not as good as ours, but it's like good enough that you can lose a game and it's not like the end of the world. I don't measure my love of country or things like that, or our relative goodness or badness, whatever, based on whether or not we dominate Olympic basketball.
I got far greater concerns about America at the moment than how we do in Team USA.
So I haven't checked the news lately. Is there anything happening? So I
Google George Clooney.
Is he making another movie? I admit there are people for whom the Olympics is more like meaningful. So that colors, I think, both of our opinions. Like if it was something like mattered more to us, we might care more. But I'll also say this, like, it's one of those things where like the word I used was enjoyment when I asked you the question, will you enjoy, or are you excited to see them? It's like, even understand, it's like, yeah, I'll watch it. It's cool. Like, go Team USA. If you're there, you might as well win. I will not enjoy any of it because the entire time I'll be concerned they're either going to get hurt. And even if they don't get hurt, that like it, we're going to pay for this in game 67 because they're both going to hit a wall or something like that, or they're going to get off to a slow start because they're tired or because their routine has been interrupted. And all these other things. It's like, I agree with you. I'm not excited. I'm not excited about it.
You know what it feels like to me? It feels like a second IST. And we already saw the effects from the first IST. I don't need a second IST.
The summertime in-season tournament.
Yes, it's the in-summer tournament. That's what this is. And I don't need a second one.
It's like when you take your kids, I wonder, look, I mean, maybe Steve Kerr has to tell the guys this or something, right? But like, when you take your kids to like a soccer tournament or a volleyball tournament in the case of your daughter, whatever it is, or baseball tournament. We all did it, and they're running around the hotel and jumping in the pool, and like everybody, like, you have a game in 3 hours, you should be resting. That's how I feel about Anthony Davis, LeBron this summer. It's like, you have a game in 3 months, you should be resting.
Yes.
Whether or not how much impact this really could have, and then break down a little bit of what happened on Wednesday with the summer Lakers. All that coming up next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Game Time. And I talked earlier about my daughter and how she's really into volleyball. And something else she's really gotten into over the last few years that is a lot of fun for me is she's super into music, just like her dad. We both listen now to a lot of Frank Ocean. His stuff is awesome. And he has not put out an album in about 8 years. And there have been rumors that he may put out one this year. A lot of people are decoding different either social media posts or stuff from his albums or whatever. And I have promised her that if Frank Ocean tours, I will find tickets. And that is a big promise, because if he actually does resurface again, that is going to be a very difficult ticket. And that's also why I love Game Time. It's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy shows, and theater near you. And with killer deals on last-minute tickets and the best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets, start getting hyped for the fun. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. And if you find tickets in the same section row for less, Game Time credits you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. So snag the tickets without the stress using Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
It's really hard. It can be, at least, to sort of quantify what happens if these guys play. They go presumably on a long run, to a gold medal match and all that kind of stuff. And they're traveling in the best hotels and they stay on blah, 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 blah. But it's still international travel. It is a lot of media. It's a lot of stuff. It's a different routine in the summer that interrupts what they would normally do to prepare for the season and compresses the off season in ways that are unusual. And we all know, Andy, athletes are creatures of habit. So anytime you interrupt the routine, I don't like it.
I mean, LeBron is as good at taking care of his body as I don't think this is hyperbole, any athlete who's ever lived, because nobody has done it for as long as he has, at as high of a level as he has, putting as many miles as he has, including, as we talked about before, 3 different Olympic stints and the other Olympic offshoots and things like that. So LeBron is as great at taking care of his body as anyone you're ever going to find, even while doing unprecedented things while pushing 40. That being said, we saw that, to your point, pushing it into overdrive in December or January, whichever month the IST was, which LeBron very openly wanted to win, there was a price that his body paid for that. And it was visible and it was obvious. And, Anthony Davis is somebody for whom you always worry about the extra wear and tear. And for the people who try to explain it away as AD just having dealt with a lot of fluke injuries, well, extra time on the court allows for more fluky things to happen.
And also, too, it's like people talk about fluky injuries as if they are less damaging, to your body, or if I, in a really fluky way, slip and break my arm, or this kooky accident happens and it results in me, tearing a ligament or breaking my arm or doing something strange. That was a weird fluky accident. I still have a broken arm. My body doesn't know that it counts less because it was a fluky injury.
Right. Yeah. The toll is still the toll.
Yes,
so
it's the same.
And I recognize too, and this is the bright side of all this, these Olympic teams are super teams. So nobody is necessarily being expected to carry anything. So to some degree, other than maybe the idea that this is, I believe, normally a period where LeBron typically just shuts it down altogether and just recharges. The reality is the Olympic work may not be necessarily more or seriously more strenuous than a lot of what he might be doing anyway. When he starts to ramp it up, this is not normally the time when it happens.
Yeah, whatever, and whatever it is, and it's playing high intensity games at times. Again, it's not that these are things like these guys play basketball constantly. You know, I don't know exactly like normally in a regular rhythm in an off season when LeBron cranks it up, and there's like he's not just sitting around like on his duff for most of his time. But what he isn't usually doing is playing playoff intensity games in July.
Right.
Like, there's just no context for that. And so it's not that it's wrong. It's not that it's bad. It's that it's different. And
just you only have so many miles left on the odometer before even LeBron's body will say no mas. Like everybody feels it at some point.
I mean, Austin Reaves clearly came into camp tired, you know, after the qualifying and all that kind of stuff. It was a great experience, and he's better off for it as a basketball player and all that. But contextually too, Austin Reaves and LeBron James and Anthony Davis are all in. Those guys are in very different spaces in their careers. Like it was a growth opportunity for Reaves much more than it is for LeBron or AD, who are made, entities in the league. So they have such a small margin for error, and they are already coming off a season where the disappointment happened while their two best players were largely available for the entire season. And so, it just doesn't take much to eat into whatever margin the Lakers are going to enter the season with. And so that's why this makes me nervous, even beyond the risk of some sort of injury, which is obviously a risk every time you play.
Look, we're going to talk about the Summer League guys in just a second. I would rather Maxwell Lewis be on this team because Team USA can likely win it with Lewis on the roster anyway. Lewis would probably gain more from being around all these other players, and he's like 21 years old. I mean, he's actually the perfect guy to put on this team. The team's fortunes will not likely be that drastically affected one way or the other. Lewis benefits, LeBron and AD get the rest.
It would be fun if like one random second rounder was on the team.
Yes.
Not like they used to feel like Leitner or the big collegian or whatever. You just like randomly choose one guy on a roster that has to be a second rounder that nobody's ever heard of.
Okay, but before we seg truly into the Summer League or the California Classic Game 3, as far as both young guys and feeling old at the same time, during this game between the Lakers and the Heat, the Cali Classic game, I learned that Caron Butler's 24-year-old son is on the Heat's Summer League team. Holy hell, am I old and washed? I mean, my God.
I don't think that's cool.
No.
That should be allowed.
I mean, it's not even like, Bronny, we know Bronny's on the team. Bronny's at least 19. And you hear about the Boozer twins. They're at least, like 17 or 18, or they're still young. Like, I don't know for sure, but I don't think they're even 20 yet. Like, Caron Butler's kid is 24 and he's doing this. Oh,
yeah, I didn't like it. I do think what should be allowed is for Bronny, similar like you have stand-ins, like stunt doubles in a movie. Like, they should just let Bronny be LeBron's stunt double. Just let him travel. It's the same name. Like, you don't even need a different jersey. I think that should be allowed. There should be a loophole. Get on it, FIBA. Summer League, Game 3. That's next. Quick reminder that today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So it was better. They lost again, They finished the California Classic 0-3, do the Summer Lakers, but the first two games weren't great. The second game was as bad a basketball game as you could possibly put together. And this one, at least, from among the guys who matter, there was a lot more encouraging stuff to watch.
Yeah, I'll begin with Bronny. If you just see his line, it's kind of a weird line. It's 3 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. It seems more goofy than impressive, but he was also +8 in a 4-point loss. And obviously plus minus does not tell you everything, but I think in this case, it speaks to a lot of the really good stuff Bronny did and the good stuff generally happening with him on the court, particularly on the defensive end. Like Bronny did a lot in this game, whether you're talking about with active hands, getting steals, he had a block. There was a possession where he defended 2 guys in a switch, but defended them both extremely well, forced a miss, either a miss or a turnover for the guy who eventually put the shot up. This was a game where you really saw like his strength and his instincts, and just, he's talked about this before, his interest in the defensive end. And like he has said, he takes pride in being a defensive player. And I think he's recognized if he's going to carve out a lane in the NBA, defense is likely going to have to be his calling card, or up there, if nothing else. I thought this was a really good game for Bronny.
Yeah, I mean, this is an overstatement. This is too much. But like he moves his feet so well, sort of guarding in the open floor, that it seemed to me like there were times that Miami in Wednesday's game, the Lakers led for much of it, and before they didn't. It kind of felt like at times they weren't bothering to try to get the ball to LeBron's assignment, Bronny's assignment, right? Well, I mean, technically, but I'm very formal. Like they were almost going away from it because they just weren't able to. I mean, again, it's not that he's perfect, but he moves his feet very well, and so if you can't take advantage of the physical stuff, where for a 19-year-old, he's very big and very strong, but he's not fully grown into his body yet. And so, you can sometimes, rub him off a screen and all that kind of stuff and slow him down a little bit that way. But just one-on-one in space, moves very well. So that part I thought was encouraging. And when we were talking about what we wanted to see before the summer league began, it's like, this is it. I didn't expect him to go out and be like, oh, look at that, the shots there. Look, he put up 15, 16 points. It's like, I wanted to see that the thing that he was drafted for is something that he obviously shows potential in the same way that the Lakers signed Blake Hinson to their 2-way deal. Why? Because he's an excellent collegiate 3-point shooter. You figure we're going to see if that talent translates. It did in the first summer league game. It has not since. See how that goes. But that's why he's here. Bronny is drafted for defense and floor feel, which I think he shows. Let's see that in the summer league, and I think we have.
Yeah, I mean, again, we'll see more of this when it continues in Vegas, and obviously, one game does not. Neither one of us is saying guy's going to have a 10-year NBA career. The Lakers actually were the only ones who really saw who he is. Like, slow down. But this was a good game, and I think it's worth noting that, especially for people if they didn't actually watch the game and they just see the stats. Dalton Connect also, I liked a lot of what we saw from him. 20 points on 7 of 18 shooting, 2 of 8 from 3. It's obviously not super efficient, but a few of those shots were very last minute kind of desperation heaves, or like trying to get back in with like in the last 20 seconds or so. But he got to the line 5 times, made 4 of them, 9 rebounds, 3 on the offensive glass. And the thing I really liked from Connect in this game is he moved around a lot. And it wasn't even just like the idea of being a movement shooter. Like he was just moving a lot, creating his own space and opportunities, working off ball. He was cutting a lot to the basket. He was very aware of who had the ball, and I think trying to provide outlets by moving. And like, the shot has not consistently been there, but I'm not worried about that yet. I'm going to trust the people who've seen Connect play more than either one of us that that's going to come around. But watching some of his other instincts on the floor, there are areas that need to improve. Like defensively, that's going to be some work.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's some nice moments defensively, but you're right. He's not a shutdown guy. I mean, Connect for me is when I'm not worrying too much about him because he is cast as a number one scorer, like a lead scoring type in Summer League in ways that I actually don't think, even understanding that it's not, the highest level NBA competition that you're seeing, it's still kind of miscasting him a little bit because in the NBA, he's a catch and shoot guy. He's going to be moving off screens, one dribble and either shoot, one dribble pass, maybe get to the basket or whatever it is. He's not going to be a focal point of offense in the way that he is in these games. So I don't worry too much about that. And I think generally speaking, you see him coming off screens and he gets to his spot very smoothly. He is, a few sequences where he makes that nice read coming off of plays and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think it would be great if the shots had fallen, but I think in some ways it's the other stuff because again, let's assume, like you say, Andy, that they're not wrong. He's a good shooter and be able to play. It's all the other things that will make him the difference between kind of a spotty rotation guy to like a really important player. Because if you can shoot if you can shoot if you can shoot now you're really talking, even if there are deficiencies like defense or whatever it might be, most players have a hole or two. So I've been fine with Connect. Nothing has happened with Connect in these 3 games that made me slightly concerned.
No, but in this particular game, I really was struck by how much he was moving with purpose, not just to, get fed for a catch and shoot off a screen or something like that. That he was really, the stuff that he's doing inside the 3-point line or around the basket, I'm finding very intriguing. There's another game where Colin Castleton, the defensive issues are there. Like he's got size, but he's going to need to put on some muscle and some strength because he gets pushed around, I think, in particular defensively when it comes to trying to protect the lane. But he still had
rebounds well, but he moves well for the rebounds and anticipates, but like in terms of like bodying people up, 100%. But
you see the offensive utility that he has and like the ability to run stuff through him. He does dribble handoffs and screens. For somebody that needs to pick up strength, he actually screens, I think, pretty well. He's very confident with the ball. Like he will take a defensive rebound and dribble it up court. Like you've I think summarized this very well. He feels at times almost like a high-end baseball prospect or like 4A, like you're not
they call them 4A prospects in baseball, where you're not quite good enough to be a really established major leaguer, but you're too good to be a AAA guy.
Right. He feels like I'm curious, and I know you've talked about this too, particularly as the Lakers are, I think, looking for and not finding options behind AD. If there could be, if nothing else, opportunity for him to try to get 10 to 12 minutes on the big boy club and at minimum do no harm.
I think I will say, like, because he's got some deficiencies and what they're going to be when you go on, but what he is a smart player who doesn't make a ton of mistakes. He's not going to throw the ball to the wrong spot. He'll rotate to the right place. He might not defend it well, but he might not have the bulk or he could get pushed, but he's going to screen in the right place. He's going to have the right angle. He's going to do all that stuff. And so if you need to use him for 10 or 15 games, he's the kind of player that even if he's not wildly talented, relatively by this league.
Well, he's not standard. What he isn't. I think he's got a certain amount of talent. What he isn't at all by NBA standards is athletic.
Right, like athletic, strength, but like lacking some of these things in the overall talent package. He's obviously a talented basketball player with a good vision, all that stuff. But the type of skill set he has means that if you needed 10 to 15, he's not likely to screw things up for you on the floor. You're going to feel the difference between Anthony Davis and Colin Castleton, whatever it is. You're going to notice that there's a little gap there. But if you have to choose between that and the guy who's like super bouncy, Maxwell Lewis, super bouncy, tons of athleticism, unreliable. The Lakers would, in terms of who's going to get playing, like they would choose Castleton and the predictability. Now you would expect Castleton to be more like that. He's 24, I believe he is. And Lewis, as you mentioned before, is still quite young. So I like having Castleton around. I could see how actually playing with better players might benefit him more than playing with Summer League, because it'll narrow his role and the other people will be able to play off his strengths better than Summer League players can. I just don't know yet because we haven't seen it. I am not willing to sort of state a belief that I think this guy's an NBA player. Like, definitely. I don't know. No, I think it's not a two-way. I mean, this isn't a criticism. You can find a guy who can play 15 games for you, 20 games for you on a two-way and give you decent minutes. That's a win. Like, I'm not critical. Lewis, though, I other than that first beginning of the game, he finished the game strong, but he missed like 18 shots in a row and he's just all over the place.
He really is. And there were times in this game where he looked pretty good. Like he had a few really nice passes and he finished strong, which, if nothing else, speaks to determination. But he's wild. I mean, like, he is a very wild player out there. He's clearly a sick athlete and he's got crazy long arms. And like, I get the intrigue, but it is a little bit disheartening that he seems just as wild in this summer league as he did in last year's summer league.
Yeah, you always want your second-year players to look like they don't belong there, and he 100% looks like he belongs there. Doesn't mean you got to write him off. No, he's still so young, and the athleticism, talent's there. And this is a guy that a lot of people thought at the time would have been drafted in the first round this year, but could just need a little bit more seasoning. And we'll see him get it over the rest of the offseason, or the summer league season, I should say. Locked on Lakers on YouTube is where you can go hang out with over 24,000 subscribers. Leave us questions, leave us comments. Keep an eye on the Lakers Olympians and any movement in the free agency or trade market. We'll see everyone tomorrow.